It's 5:46 and time for a little sharpener from the drinks trolley ahead of the confession. What have you selected for us today, Suze?
I've gone for a very lovely pale ale, double dry hopped pale ale called Good Times Ahoy by Pretty Decent Beer Company. It's 5%. And Matt, just for you, Mosaic and Machuca.
Oh, a bit of Machuca hops.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Are they good?
Yeah, that's
Your favourite. Okay. Today's confession comes from Clara, Father Simon and the Confessional Collective. It is with eager anticipation that my husband and I sit down with our afternoon cuppa and chocolate digestives to await the confessionary disclosures. Oh, if only I could dredge up a misdemeanour from my past life worthy of some airtime and scrutiny, I would grumble to him. It was then this week, as we listened avidly to the tale of the airborne chips and the half-naked ladies, that my face was electrified by my own light bulb moment. My husband looked at me blankly as I relate to him the story. "You never told me that before," he said. So here we go.
Here we go.
I'm going to take you back several decades to a busy time of my life when I worked in a social work setting in a cathedral town which will remain undisclosed for fear of recrimination. Work was highly pressured for our small, diligent team of 6 who collectively serviced the needs of families across the breadth of the county. It was therefore with great anticipation that we all looked forward to our Friday lunches, a get-together at the Dirty Lettuce pub to have a rant about the trials and tribulations of the week and unwind. On the glorious sunny day in question, the sight of an ice cream van, temptingly positioned in a lay-by on our short drive back to the office, was too much to ignore. We basked in the sunshine with our cones, eking out the last precious minutes of our lunch break. As we returned to the car, my attention switched to the 2 team members who had decided nobly to forgo lunch today and stay in the office to catch up on paperwork. To the abject horror of our volunteer driver for the day, who we will call Marcus, I announced my intention to return to the office with 2 ice cream cones for our absent friends.
Oh dear.
Not wrapped up, just leaky.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not the most considered of ideas on a humid day with a man who was obsessive about the cleanliness of his vehicle. "Don't you dare drop any ice cream on my seats," Marcus yelled, sounding like the Verge of
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
from the driver's seat. With his eyes reflecting menacingly in the rearview mirror and the likelihood of a future cleaning bill weighing heavily on my mind, I did what I thought any considerate human being would do. I balanced the cones expertly in one hand, wound down the window with the other, and promptly stuck both fists out into the fresh air. Both ice cream cones were now outside. How smug I was at my ingenuity in averting a messy accident. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, no idea.
Our office was located in a very attractive part of town in a very close proximity to the cathedral. It was unusual at this time of day to see a hive of activity at the entrance to this imposing edifice. It was only as we rounded the bend in the road that the explanation of the crowds of people became all too apparent. The black apparel of the gathering and the oversized vehicle parked outside the entrance gave the game away. With my brain searching for a respectful response to the scene that greeted us, I decided in that instance to withdraw the ice creams into the vehicle, to respect the funeral that was about to get going.
Oh dear.
It must have been a combination of my changing arm position, the car taking the bend, and an unwelcome gust of wind that the ice creams were parted abruptly from their receptacle cones. As the pallbearers unloaded the coffin from the hearse, great big dollops and splatters of vanilla ice cream with hundreds of thousands rained down the length of the vehicle, the mourners, and the coffin. As we hurried from the chaotic scene, Marcus was beside himself with fear that one of the church dignitaries had made a note of his license plate. Perhaps they might think the cathedral pigeons were responsible for the damage, I suggested to Marcus as a thought to bring him some comfort in his meltdown moment. There was no appeasing him, however. I was ordered out of his vehicle at the steps of the front of our building, and for the ensuing weeks he scoured the local news, petrified that our identities would be detected. But I have to seek forgiveness not only from you, Father Simon, and your trusted team, the many injured parties, from the entourage of the deceased for the unwelcome interruption to their day and probable harm to their immaculate outfits, to the long-suffering Marcus, who from recollection did not offer to drive me anywhere ever again.
No.
Though I have to say his upholstery was unharmed in the making of this story. To the absent colleagues who asked reception to call and meet me at the entrance to be given their ice creams, they were slightly underwhelmed with what I handed them. And finally, of course, from the pigeons, who do always get a bad press, I know I would happily have allowed to take the blame for the incident if it hadn't been for the addition of hundreds and thousands, which I think might have made that a difficult one to stick. Well, I mean, it's one of those classic tales which involves ice cream, seagulls, and funerals.
Yes.
And cathedrals.
Yeah.
So we've got it all in here. No nudity, but apart from that, everything was there. Clara seeks forgiveness. Does she get it from you, Suze?
Oh, do you know what, Clara? Good try, because just you really, really tried to bring those ice creams back. Holding your hand out the window. I just think it's never going to get there, is it? Even if it had made it all the way there and not splattered the funeral procession, then they would have melted, and you would have just given them a cone anyway. So I just feel like surely there was somewhere closer you could have got the ice creams from, and for that reason, I can't forgive you.
No forgiveness. Okay, Brother Matthew.
Yes, I'm going to forgive. What I love about this story is that even if they had stopped the car immediately at the funeral and explained that they weren't throwing ice cream at the coffin, it was just that nobody would have believed them. And I said, well, why did you have your ice cream? Because I was keeping it cool. That doesn't make any sense. Why have you got your ice cream out of the car? It's going to fall off, obviously. So no, what a way to start the week. Well done. As soon as the funeral hoved into view, we all feared the worst.
Yes.
And we were right. And for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, so it's the people's verdict, please. Does Clara get your forgiveness, yes or no? People's verdict. 61054 on the text. First word is Simon. Just before the news at 6 o'clock, a confession from Clara, who, to keep her ice creams cool in the car, held both cones out of the car window. Sadly, the ice cream flew from its cone and landed on a funeral procession, which was just getting underway, landing on the hearse, landing on the procession, and also the coffin. The people's verdict is in for Clara. How did it look?
Forgiven, says Hattie in the Whirl. She tried her best with the ice creams held out the window, and the colleagues were so ungrateful. Joan in Chichester says that ice cream was never going to survive that journey. Sticking it out of the window was never going to work.
Yes.
Keeping it in the car would have made the whole thing melt. It was a ridiculous idea, and that's why I don't forgive. But Steve Harris says, absolutely forgiven. That was an epic adventure, not intentional. Plus, the deceased might have been an ice cream lover.
Yeah, but even if the deceased was an ice cream lover, it wasn't really much good for him or her.
Perfect tribute, I think.
Is that perfect tribute? Okay,
just what
that's
they would have
very
wanted.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. Clara gets a smart speaker, and if you fancy getting one and getting your confession read out and included in the podcast, which comes out on Friday, send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. But first of all, we need a little bit of refreshment. A little sharpener before the confession. What are you offering us today, Suze?
Well, I've gone for Doritos Mexican soda. I'm going to have the guava one because it's pink. Matt can have Mexican cola, and I thought you'd like a lime soda.
Oh, that sounds rather good.
They're very tasty.
Are you happy with that, Matt?
Yes, Mexican cola. That sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think
Danny
it does. Today's confession comes from Sally. There's some poor behaviour
Good.
in this confession, as you might expect. Father Simon in the Confessional Collective. When I was about 8, I had a friend who we will call Joanna. She was my best friend and neighbour, but she came with baggage, namely in the form of a 4-year-old pain in the backside sister, who we will call Terry with an I. Terry was a horrid little girl who complained and cried that Joanna and myself left her out of our Cindy doll games, were too fast on our bikes and wouldn't slow down, called her names and made her eat mud pies. That bit might be true.
Okay.
But she was a horrible little girl and was just a spoilt little so-and-so, and would stand and grin behind her mum's back when Joanna and I were told off by our mums for being mean to her. Poor Joanna was often left in tears due to the conniving antics of her horrible little sister Terry. She would often come to my mum's house with her mum while me and Joanna were at school. And one day my mum let her have free rein in my bedroom, and she played with my pride and joy, my Cindy doll. My toys, by the way, were always left in a pristine and tidy fashion, which was very unusual for an 8-year-old girl. Nice and tidy, everything had a place. My favourite and most prized outfit of all Cindy's clothes was Cindy the Bride, and I'd pose her at her beautiful dressing table. The dolls were left in their finery, ready for me to play when I got home. After school one day, I discovered that Terry had been let loose in my room. And to my absolute horror, Terry had not only disrobed Cindy's and messed up their beautiful and carefully arranged clothes, but my fabulous Cindy dressing table had been drawn on with permanent marker.
What?
My mum tried to console me and said she'd buy me another one. She never did.
Yeah.
And I was heartbroken. My beautiful Cindy bedroom ruined. Well, that summer, Joe's dad, that's Joanna's dad, obviously, and Terry's dad, built a beautiful but shallow lily pond in their back garden. We were told not to go anywhere near it, which we didn't. But you've guessed it, Terry, the pain in the backside 4-year-old sibling of Joanna, loved nothing more than to stand next to it, flicking us with water, therefore resulting in us being sternly told to stay away from the pond while she turned on the tears because she was soaked. One particular day, we were once again saddled with playing with the devil's own spawn, and she decided to yet again stand close to the pond and flick water over me and Joe. Something inside me snapped. I had a flashback to the Cindy dressing table incident, and I ever so slightly pushed her in.
What?
Yeah. It was quite shallow.
Yeah.
The screaming and wailing brought our mums and Joe's dad, who raced into the garden to see what had happened, by which time I had waded in to pull her out. Once she was safely on the side, panting and sobbing hysterically, the parents asked us what happened. Of course, Terry screamed that I'd pushed her in, which I had. My 8-year-old acting skills came into full force, worthy of at least a BAFTA nomination, and I vehemently denied it. Joe delivered a wonderful, tearful performance that Judi Dench would have been proud of and backed me up, saying that we told her to stay away from the pond. But Terry had been standing too close to the edge and she must have slipped. And the grown-ups believed us. In fact, I was hailed a real hero for my quick thinking in jumping into the pond to drag her out.
Yes.
My goodness.
And Terry got a right telling off for being near the pond in the first place. I even got to choose anything I wanted from the ice cream man for being so brave.
Wow,
I chose a Popeye, by the way, which I wasn't quite sure about, and I think is an ice cream with an ice lolly stuck in it.
An ice lolly stuck in the ice cream.
Yeah, so like a 99, but instead of a flake, you get an ice lolly stuck in the ice
Double
cream.
the fun, isn't it? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Great, yeah.
that's what Sally chose.
Yeah, wow.
It went all around the neighbourhood because this was the 70s and everyone knew everything that went on. I was an absolute hero for jumping in and saving her life. I was famous all across our sprawling estate in Essex, and Joe never ever said a word. It was our big secret. Terry was banned from the garden, and Joe and I enjoyed every peaceful remainder of the school holidays. Sadly, Joe and her annoying sister Terry moved away after that summer, and I lost contact with Joanna. A few years later, in fact, I was contacted via Facebook from Terry the brat and asked if I was in fact Joe's friend from many years ago. I was so excited and almost jumped for joy at a reconciliation with my old school friend until I read the line, "Do you remember pushing me in the pond?" Well, I thought, here's my chance for forgiveness and to come clean as a grown woman in my then 40s and apologise for what must have been so unbelievably traumatic to a 4-year-old. But I didn't. I denied being Joe's friend, and I blocked her.
Blocked her. There you go.
I've kept this secret
Sally.
for over 50 years. And I often wonder if Joe ever revealed to her parents or Terry what really happened in the garden that hot summer afternoon in the 70s, or if Terry was scarred for life and had to have counselling whenever she saw lily ponds. So please, Simon and the team, as I reach my 60th birthday this year, can I get some forgiveness out of you? Well, I don't know whether, I suspect it's going to be 50-50, much the same as normal. Suze, what do you say to Sally?
Now, Sally, like, Terry sounds horrible. She does sound horrible, but I am a little sister, and I feel like she needs she was just misunderstood, I think. And maybe if you'd given her some attention and maybe you'd been a bit nicer rather than being
She was
horrible.
the devil's spawn, I believe.
Well, yeah, but that she probably wasn't. She was just calling her that, and it was just a bit mean. But I can't forgive anybody pushing anybody in a pond. Just Very, very poor behaviour, Sally. I'm sorry, I can't forgive you. And you didn't even admit it later on. You blocked her.
Brother Matthew.
Not forgiven.
I'd have pushed her in. I'd have pushed her in twice. She had it coming. Terry, you know you had it coming. You've borne that grudge for years. And then, well, there's your clue. When she blocked you on Facebook, you should have known then. We all know kids like Terry. Very annoying, spawn of the devil. So, yes, definitely going to forgive. Because, yes, all of us would have done it. Anyone who says they wouldn't have pushed Terry in the pond is a liar. I would have done it. I would have done it 3 times.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah, we'd all have done it.
61054. First word is Simon. Before the news, a confession from Sally about her friend Joanna and her ghastly sister Terry, who once messed up Sally's Cindy collection. And so when the opportunity arose, she snapped and pushed Terry into a very shallow pond and then got all the credit for rescuing her. Anyway, the people's verdict, here we go.
Yes, tons of verdicts tonight. Juliet says, forgiven, best confession in ages. Terrible Terry sounds truly ghastly. And I say this as a little sister. I think I'd have danced around her laughing until the adults were in view. Keep them coming. Stephen New Brighton, though, says, not forgiven. I'm the youngest of 3 and know how misunderstood younger siblings are. Also, she should have seized the opportunity for reconciliation when she could. But Hayley from Pillerton Priors says, forgiven. Smaller sisters are always annoying, and quite frankly, the pond is the best place for them.
So, as ever with these confessions, it depends where you sit in the pecking order of your family.
Correct.
As to whether you forgive Sally or not. Anyway, maybe that's provoked a thought in your mind, and you do have a confession after all. Send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. And there goes the trolley, and I haven't even mentioned Sue's. What have we grabbed from the trolley as it flew past?
I have grabbed a Helles lager from Arbor, 4.2%. It's also gluten-free, which is very nice in a lager if you're looking for one. And Matt, here we go, Halle Thai Milfrew hops.
Milfrew hops.
Oh, they're my favourite. Absolutely very good. Always very tasty. Thank you. Well, one for later then, maybe. Today's confession comes from Tommy, Father Simon and the Collective. In seeking forgiveness, I would like to return to the time of my school days, a time of one-upmanship and the all-important capture of the class photograph. Oh, the horror.
Yeah.
It was a Thursday morning, a week before the Easter holidays, and I was standing in the corridor with my classmates queuing against the wall as we waited our turn to enter the school hall. I watched the photographer through the glass door, organising the class in front of us. And this helped me to ignore my friend Adam, who was talking his usual boastful manner about how he was much better than everyone else at everything. You know the sort. Faster, stronger, smilier. Destined for great things and always looking stylish and guaranteed the lead in the school play. Of course I'll play Long John Silver, Mrs. James. It would be an honour. Anyway, you get the picture. And suddenly, lovely Adam turned to me. I need to speak to Mr. Francis, Adam said. Don't let them take the photograph without me. I am the class.
I am the class.
Yeah.
Wow.
What? Wow.
Ideas above his station. And this is where my request for forgiveness begins, because the thought of Adam not being in the photo appealed rather strongly. The tallest in the class, he would no doubt take centre stage, while I, quite short, would be hidden in the wings. It was an opportunity, therefore, for the small and insignificant to fight back. It was a request for justice. Even so, it seemed unlikely that he would miss out on the photograph. Mr. Francis worked as a PE teacher, and the gym was only a couple of minutes away. But when a couple of minutes turned into 10, and as our class edged closer to the entrance hall, I began to hope, especially as we started to line up in front of the photographer. Girls at the front, taller girls, bigger boys on the second row, me in the wings, as I'd previously thought. But at least he wasn't there to ruin things. Now is anyone missing? Shouted the photographer. Well, I looked around, horrified at the thought that someone might say something. I even looked over to the class teacher, but he seemed preoccupied with a little picture of Olivia Newton-John. And also the behaviour of some boys in the middle row. It's easy to be distracted by those kind of things. So I addressed the photographer. No, I don't think so, I said, my excitement reaching fever pitch at the thought of getting one over arrogant Adam. We're all here, Mr. Photographer. Carry on, snap away. Moments later, I wonder if he did speak like that.
I'm just guessing he did.
100%.
Yes.
Moments later, the shutter of the camera clicked in the way that cameras in the 80s clicked.
Yeah.
And as we left the stand to allow the class behind us take our places, I must confess to a moment of exhilaration, especially when Adam arrived a few seconds late, red-faced and all flustered, still obviously stylish. Have I missed it? Have I missed it? Sorry, I replied, trying to hide a smirk. There was nothing I could do. Mr. Photographer was very strict. Flashbang, wallop, what a picture. That's what he said. Thinking back, it wasn't entirely my fault, Father Simon. There were others who could have said something, like the teacher who was looking at Olivia Newton-John. However, it was only a few weeks later, when I visited Adam's house, that I realized the full extent of what I'd done. Because there on the mantelpiece above the fire was the photo with everyone in our class in perfect formation and smiling back at the camera. Everyone, that is, except Adam. His mother, with a tear in her eye, looked at the photo, then back at me. Such a shame. I did try and stop the photograph being taken. I lied. You could always draw him in with a pen, I suggested. Or maybe cut out an old photo and stick him in at the front. Nowadays, that would be possible with Photoshop, but not back then. And it is on that basis that I need to seek forgiveness. Not for arrogant Adam. Oh, no. Because even now, when I glance at the image of all of us some 40 years later, I'm still glad he isn't standing centre stage with his smug, boastful grin on his face. But because my actions prevented an opportunity for a proud mother to sit dotingly looking at her tall, handsome son standing in the centre of the class photo. Taking all the attention like he always did, that's Tommy, who basically, I mean, the school photo is always a horrific thing anyway. And there's always someone who looks great and someone who poses. And then there's always the people like Tommy who just stuck over to the left.
Yep.
Because no one really wants them near them. But still shoddy behaviour, I think. What do you say, Suze?
Yeah, I hated having my school photograph taken and often would have my eyes closed in them. So I do feel for Tommy here. And I feel like, yeah, he's right. Other people could have said that he was missing, that Adam was missing, not him. It wasn't all on him.
It was not his job, was it?
But being a mum, these moments go so fast. I do feel for the mum, and I think you need these photographs to remember the moments that go by so quickly. And for that reason, I can't forgive him.
She could have stuck an extra little photograph of her son into the class photograph. I think that would have worked.
Could have. Not the same.
Knowing Adam as I think I do, my guess is there were plenty of photos of Adam all over the house anyway, such as his arrogance, thinking the whole world schedule revolves around him. Well, if you want to be in the photo, sunshine, make sure you're in the room at the time. Don't think everyone can delay things just for you.
Be in the room where it happens.
Indeed. And so I am definitely going to forgive. And of course, Olivia Newton-John, Xanadu nicely. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, all right. So it's the people's verdict, please. It's a school photo confession. Do you forgive Tommy? Yes or no? Just before the news, a confession from Tommy, who told the school photographer that yes, all the class was present, despite knowing that arrogant Adam was elsewhere. The photo was taken. No, Adam, that's the way it went. What's the people's verdict like?
Forgiven, says Johnny in Chiswick. As Matt says, why did he think the whole world revolved around him? The camera shutter waits for no one, sunshine. Right? Jean says, not forgiven, though. Is it bad? I feel a bit sorry for him in the end. His poor mum bought the photo and everything, and he wasn't even in it. But Sue in Middlesbrough says, forgiven. That Adam guy sounds like a complete nightmare, looking pristine and getting the lead in all the plays. Ugh, definitely deserved it.
All right, very good. Thank you for the verdict. Send your confessions, please, to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. There'll be a brand new podcast dropping on Friday. If you subscribe, you don't miss a thing. Clearly in need of something from the drinks trolley, and there it arrives.
Yay!
After I did it for a couple of times.
Yeah.
What have you chosen for us today, Suze?
I've gone for a pale ale from Froome Brewing Company. It's called Crush, 4.1%, and it's dry hopped, Matt.
Yes. Dry hops.
Crush, Cascade, Citra, and Cashmere hops.
Cashmere hops.
Are they all sort of smooth and silky?
Oh, very lovely.
All right, that sounds very good. Okay, today's confession comes from Alison. Alison, thank you very much indeed. Matt, Simon, Susie and the team, wrong order, but there you go.
I like
it.
I'm wanting forgiveness for an incident that I was involved with many years ago. When I got married, moved into my first house with my husband, a small parcel arrived through the post that was sent to our address, but it didn't have any name on the parcel. I opened it and found it contained a small plastic bag full of a dark-coloured powder. There was nothing else in the parcel, no note, delivery note, no invoice. Having a vivid imagination, I managed to convince my husband that I believed this to be a bag of illicit drugs and that we needed to inform the police immediately before the drug dealers arrived at our house with their guns and their 4x4s and their sunglasses.
And the sunglasses.
So I telephoned the police and they sent round a rather surly officer, to be honest. Came round to our house to investigate. On his arrival, I was surprised by his initial response to me, telling him that I'd opened the parcel and I found what I believed to be illicit drugs. Not that I'd ever seen a bag of illicit drugs before, I might add. He then went on to tell me off for opening the parcel that wasn't addressed to me. I should have put it back in the post box because it belonged to the post office. So I showed him the parcel to demonstrate that it had been sent to our address without a name on it and that it might have been sent to our address for the previous homeowner or something. And I just wanted to do the right thing in getting drugs off our streets. Do we not all believe in that?
Yeah.
I must have been quite convincing, as although the police officer was a bit reluctant, he opened the plastic bag and smelt its contents. It doesn't smell like drugs, he said in his unpleasant manner.
Okay.
He then, as we've seen many times on the TV, wet his finger and dipped it in the powder.
Why?
And then put his finger on his tongue and said, "It doesn't taste like drugs either." Scratching his head, as he thought, he agreed to remove the bag and its contents and he would dispose of it for us. He then tried some more of the drugs.
Kept on trying them, did he?
Yeah,
well, just to be sure.
Just to be sure. And I'll be sure again.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm definitely sure that ain't. I don't know what that is. That's not drugs. Anyway, a few weeks passed and no other dodgy deliveries arrived at our house. And one Saturday morning, there was a knock at the door. And when I opened it, I found a small, older man wearing a flat cap standing in our doorway. He asked if we'd received a parcel.
Oh, no.
That he'd been expecting it, but never received. He wasn't a drug dealer, though, I don't think.
No.
Not a typical drug dealer. Anyway, you can't really tell, Father Simon, can you? I confirmed that we'd received a parcel, but had passed this to the police as good citizens, as we thought the parcel might have contained illicit drugs. With that, the man laughed out loud and advised me that the contents of the parcel was in fact his order of pigeon dye. And he went on to tell me that he put this powder into his racing pigeons' food, which then turned their feathers into a dark red colour, which would then make them easier to identify when out racing. It didn't take much powder to turn their feathers bright red, apparently.
Oh,
Just a sprinkle was all it took.
Okay.
So Alison says, I need to seek forgiveness for not only giving this gentleman's pigeon dye to the cops, but to the police officer who came round, the surly guy, to investigate the bag of drugs that I believe to be, illicit drugs. I imagine that his skin and hair might have turned red overnight because he did try the drugs a few times.
Yes,
but it wasn't. It was pigeon dye, and apparently it doesn't take very much to turn everything red. I mean, that would have been quite a very funny experience, I think. Actually, what's wrong with you then? PC blowers. Well, I seem to have gone all red.
Gone all red.
But your hair's gone all red as well. I can't imagine what that's going on there. Anyway, people's verdict. What do you think, Sister Suze?
Well, Alison, your intentions were good. A mysterious parcel. It could have been anything, couldn't it? Really suspicious powder too. So, yeah, I think anyone would have thought it was drugs, wouldn't it? But jumping to conclusions.
You might have thought it was a cooking ingredient.
Yeah.
It could have been herbs
talc.
and spices.
It could have been talc.
Could have been talc.
Could have been talc. But I think, you could have just looked into it a bit more before you got the police involved. And I feel like maybe it was a case of foul play.
Foul play!
So
What is going on?
I'm not going to forgive, sorry.
Oh,
I tell you what.
like it, though.
If you start doing puns,
No, I am
there's gonna
totally
be-
here for that.
Sorry.
there's going to be trouble.
Foul play.
Brother Matthew.
Well, I'm going to forgive. Can I be the only one who thought when the box turned up in the bag and the stuff was in it, and then the man turned up with the flat cap, was thinking ashes, maybe,
Yes, could easily have
in
been.
the
Could have
box?
been,
So
yeah.
it turned out it wasn't that, was it? It was pigeon dye. You'd have thought they'd have put instructions in the box about how to apply your pigeon dye to your pigeon, and that would have been the clue, wouldn't it? But it wasn't. It wasn't in there. So all forgiven because everyone's learned a lesson. Not to apply pigeon dye to your
That's right.
tongue, and we'll
At
never
all.
do that again, will
That's
we?
it.
No. So definitely forgiven.
Okay, you see that red policeman over there?
Yeah.
I think he's been taking too much of that pigeon diet.
Correct.
Anyway, what an interesting tale from Alison. Thank you very much indeed. People's verdict, please. Do you forgive her? Yes or no? However, just before the news, we had a confession from Alison about a mysterious powder. She thought she had to call the police. Then when the policeman comes round, he tastes quite a lot of it. Decides it's not dangerous drugs. They discover it is a dye for pigeons' food to turn their feathers red. Somewhere they concluded there is a very red-faced policeman.
Yes.
That's what they worked it out. People's verdict, here we go.
Jane says forgiven. At least you tried to keep drugs off the street, even if it was really just keeping colour off the pigeons.
That's
Tom
true.
in Chorley says forgiven. If the constable sampled enough of the powder, he may have been the first policeman to be caught red-handed. And PC Barley in Suffolk says totally forgiven. I was a serving officer a few years back. I remember meeting another copper at a training event who had a distinctly red jaw.
Aye.
We all assumed he'd got into a brawl with someone, but he had no idea where the colouring had come from. Case closed.
There you go, it's sorted
There
by
you
PC
go.
Barley in Suffolk. If you have a confession, please send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.